Well, Jay, first of all, Paradise Stories, every city and the people of every city have a story to tell. Was that what you were interested in Liverpool, particularly in 2008?
I think so. I think what the motivation was that I had been away from the city a very long time, and I came back recently about a year ago and I saw the transformation of the city, and also there has been a lot of hype almost about the capital of culture, but also, you know, it's evident through all the cranes you see in the city and this kind of ambience, that this scintillation that something's about to happen in the city. And I was very intrigued as to, you know, how the city had changed since I was 4 years old and my parents used to kind of drop me off at Chinese school and hoped I'd suddenly become fluent in writing and speaking Mandarin. And so really I was just trying to use my art to get to know the city again, and also the inhabitants that live in the city, and to give them a platform to voice how they felt about the city and their place within it.
Now the title of the exhibition is Paradise Stories. Did you choose that because of the Paradise Project, which of course previously Radio Merseyside is right in the heart of this development of what is going to be called Liverpool One?
To an extent, and also to an extent that was happy coincidence, serendipity. I'd reached a point in my artwork and I was thinking, you know, I work across from video to sculpture, and I'm intrigued with, you know, what links all of my different art forms together. And, you know, at the very base core, there's this yearning to find out how we live, and often it comes down to this simple notion of every individual trying to be happy and to lead their lives as best as they can. So for me, this was easily slotted into this general umbrella of what is paradise, and this can split off into so many forms: religious interpretations, you know, people's own small paradise, which might be going to, you know, the gym every day, or, you know, even finding pleasure in looking at a scrap of paper in the street that you don't usually notice. And I wanted to bring that to the fore. And at the same time, obviously, there's a lot of urban regeneration in the city. And yes, there's a huge complex being, you know, constructed called Paradise, and the Paradise Project on Paradise Street. And so this really interlinked quite nicely, and it was almost as if my art project was blossoming in the same way that, you know, every time I walked past Paradise Street, the cranes were changing positions, they were being hidden by the buildings that were suddenly being erected, and all the flurry was also mimicked by the flurry of my artwork.
Now, when people come to see the exhibition here in the Renew Rooms, there's a wide range of art, from video to sculptures, all sorts of things. And there's a wonder in one of the galleries. It's just like walking into a little island paradise.
That's right. When I first thought about the idea of paradise, you know, and all these different art forms, you've got the juxtaposition of the video, which are really, as I was saying before, a platform for the voices. You know, I spent an entire 3-4 months speaking to people from across the city, all different walks of life, across all the boroughs, and it was very important for me just to have this random chance meeting. You know, for example, I spend a day with a cab driver, or I might have been invited to the Wenton family, the largest family in Merseyside, and they invited me into their home, and I was speaking to them just about their idea of paradise. And this transpired not only into what their thoughts about how they live their everyday life, but they told me visually what they expected. So I took this from all different parts of the city, all different people, from a Buddhist centre hidden in Sefton Park to a Feng Shui expert who positioned the Chinese archway, and he was commissioned by the City Council to position it. And so I took all these different nuggets and voices and really kind of just, using my hands, the tactile element of the sculptures you see, there's ceramic, there's sculpture, I use paper, they're really just one way of interpreting these stories.
Now, I feel, having seen other aspects of your work, that colour is very important to you. I mean, it's a really, you walk into the exhibition, you hear interesting thoughts from people about Paradise and what's going to teach it now, but the actual sculptures and artwork, it's very uplifting.
Thanks. I think uplifting is it's a really nice way to describe the works. Colour, you know, I used to paint in a very traditional oil painting style. I think that's what you go through even at GCSE A-level, and I moved very much away from that kind of 2D representational element, but still I retain the colour and the tone and the shading. You know, that translates into how I might paint, you know, one side of a piece of MDF, you know, to how I use the lighting to create almost a set design in some respects. And this colour, I think, yeah, it's, you know, it's as simple as sitting in a studio in winter and thinking, I need to cheer myself up. But also, it's this, I think it goes back to undeniably my Chinese origin. You know, my parents are from Shanghai, but I was born and brought up here. But this sensitivity I have, you know, I remember Hong Kong, the bustle, the smells, the noises, the tone of the fabrics, and I guess that runs through me, and, you know, so it obviously pours out in my work also.
Now, as well as your own exhibition, you've also been working with international artists. This is another exhibition, not in the Renew Rooms, just around the corner in Slater Street.
That's right, yes. I think it was a conscious decision to have this idea of Paradise stories in two parts. I decided to have my own work in one venue and also select 8 artists from all over the world, from Georgia to Stuttgart, to come to Liverpool, and I selected their works, and it was a very instinctive feel when I actually chose the works. I think it's difficult when you see images and you get these proposals in 2D image on a computer, and suddenly they're 3-dimensional and you see them in a space. I was really, I thought it was important to have international artists because, you know, I've given a very local viewpoint, but yet my work is hopefully universal and speaks to people from all cultures and ethnicities. And also I was really intrigued by, you know, I want to know what somebody in Georgia, how they interpret this idea of Paradise. And so in the International Gallery you'll find a sonic piece, you know, 8 cubes which you walk around. This guy, Chris Eckersley, he's created a piece called The Note C, and it's just his fascination with almost this idea of the vibration of sound and how it can create a sense of well-being. But also throughout all of my work, and also the works I've chosen, there's a sense of interaction, and it speaks to the audience. With The Note C, for example, it only creates sound when you walk around it. And basically each cube that he's created, they all emit the note C, but from a different instrument. And then you've got this juxtaposed with, for example, Andrew Popp's work, who's from London, and he has created a very simple piece which involves 2 people who have come to see the work, a long paintbrush on a stick and a lamp bulb, and basically they have to trace each other's shadows, and this is about the tranquility of time and a moment in space also. And I think that the 2 spaces, if we're to talk about colour, you know, there's a lot of space, there's just almost more tranquility, but in a different way in the International Gallery. And here, I think the high colours, and yet you've got all this video work. There's a lot going on, but also there's a sense of peace, hopefully, that circulates and flows both spaces.